Hey everybody, your friendly neighborhood hospitality Glenn here from the Lodging Conference. I got Mr. Chip Rogers, you know him, President and CEO of the AHLA. I want to thank our partners over at Unifocus for supporting this video. Unifocus, technology that drives value, unifocus.com. So Chip, I'm glad to talk to you today. There's a whole lot going on with the potential legislation going on in New Jersey. I don't quite understand it. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm not a politician, so What do we need to know?
Well, first, we're glad you're not a politician.
Thank you.
So look, in business arrangements, brands, owners, but any business arrangement, there's going to be friction at times. We have always felt that the single best way to handle that friction is for the parties to sit down at a table and work out any differences. That has always been the way that it has been done. Legislation has been introduced in New Jersey that seeks to do something different. First and foremost, it seeks to target the hotel industry. We stand steadfastly against any legislation that targets the hotel industry, and it's interesting because there's some history behind this. In 2015, when I was President and CEO at AHLA, we joined with AHLA in a lawsuit against the city of Los Angeles, and the premise of the lawsuit was you can't pass a law that targets one specific industry. So we joined forces saying this is a bad idea. So
I should say, for a different video, but California's doing that now, picking out specific industries.
Exactly, it's bad policy about how you look at it. But nonetheless, this legislation targets the hotel industry. It does a lot of things that have unintended consequences, particularly around points programs, around areas of protection, around trademark law. The one thing that I know, because I used to do this for a living, is that when you write law, you got to do it right. Whether you're for it or against it, it must be done right. This legislation has some fundamental legal flaws that need to be corrected. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to this. If myself and my business partner have a discrepancy, we need to work that out. Inviting the government in to try to settle that never works. Nothing good comes out of that. And so, look,
not much I know.
Everyone should come together and work out any differences. Let's not involve the legislature, the federal government, or anybody into our business model.
Okay, so let's just go. Give me a few more specifics. What are the headlines that everyone in this room needs to know that they will be affected with if this went through and passed?
Well, it would be New Jersey specific.
Of course. But what happens in one state might then kind of...
In its current form, some of the problems are there's no way for the points reward system for brands to actually work under the scenario that's being proposed. The second part is there is a restriction on building a hotel regardless of chain scale inside of a protected area. So think, for example, if you were a limited service Fairfield owner, you could prevent a Ritz-Carlton from coming in your protected area, which makes no sense because that's not...
They're not even it's kind of like if I had a grocery store and somebody wanted to bring in a big box store.
Exactly. Where there are standards from brands that say these are the acceptable items that you can purchase for our brand standards, under this legislation, you as a franchisee could go out and buy whatever you want and determine by your definition that it is a comparable product. How could that possibly be regulated? Because who's going to determine what is a comparable product or service, especially when you grant that authority to every single franchisee? That means there could be 10,000 different views on that.
And there would be.
These are just three of probably 20 what I would call fundamental flaws in the legislation that would impact the hotel industry in New Jersey and really set a bad standard. But at the end of the day, forgetting all of those fundamental flaws, it really does come down to this idea: do we as an industry think that as government that should be involved in our private contracts? History tells us that never works. It's not going to work here.
So where are you at this point, you think, in preventing this from going through?
Well, look, we believe that all the parties that are interested in this should take this out of the legislative process, sit down and work out any differences. The legislative process is always an interesting one. You never know when something's actually going to move. Right now, the New Jersey legislature is looking at elections. They're one of the places that, I mean, like everywhere else in the country, but they're having elections in an off year, and so this November they're doing that. They'll get back to it after that at some point, but you never know. I mean, legislation doesn't follow a specific path on how it gets to a finish line.
So if people want to learn more or get involved in the fight, what should they do?
Well, I always ask everybody, just look at the facts, right? Don't listen to one side or the other. Look at the actual facts. Key, read the actual bill, not talking points. Not talking points.
I get all my news off of Twitter now, X.
All of this is available online. You can read the actual bill. You can see for yourself what the language says. Then draw your own conclusions. Don't take my word for it. Don't take somebody else's word for it. Literally read the legislation. If you're an owner or a brand or somebody and you have concerns, ask an attorney to review it for you if you don't think you fully understand what's in there. But don't believe other people, just read the legislation yourself.
Yeah, all right, I like it. Go get that legislation, find out more, and why not leave us your comments about what you think about what the good folks over at the AHLA are doing to help the hospitality industry. That's Chip Rogers, I'm Glenn Hausman. Thanks again to our friends over at Unifocus.com. We'll see you next time.